want to recap your season a little bit and then talk about Wiseeye. That's really all that this one's going to be about.
Well, I hope by season you don't mean my hunting season, because it was not it was not particularly eventful.
No, yeah. That's mine was a little rough in my home state anyway. But I went down to North Carolina and got 2 buck down there. But that was with an outfitter, so it was over. I think in Louisiana, can you bait down there too? Yeah. I'm not used to that at all. In PA, the only part you can hunt with bait is in Philadelphia area. So it was very different to me going down there and like hunting over bait. It was a different experience, but it was a cool experience. But I mean, I put meat in the freezer, and that's what matters to me.
Exactly. That's where I'm at. So
yeah. Because honestly, I don't run any cameras. Like I don't run them all. Like I run the basic cameras. I don't really. That's why I'm so interested to learn about your camera, because I know there's a lot of camera companies out there, and there's it's a popular field to get into, and it's a popular topic to talk about, just trail cameras, because everyone who hunts uses them.
Yeah.
I would say
primarily. Well, there's so much misinformation in the marketplace too around cameras in general, especially cellular cameras.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime we get a chance to actually discuss kind of the meat and potatoes of the cameras, we like to do it, because we really don't want to play the same misinformation games that some other people do. So,
right.
Yeah.
There's especially with cell cams, like SD cameras, people aren't too, unless it's down in, well, there's a lot of states now that have banned cameras in general, but
right.
There's cell cameras. People are getting, I have 4 cell cameras, I think, altogether. And it's kind of, people think that you're going to be able to go and just shoot that deer automatically when you have it on cell cam. Mine right now, like I think the camera, the time is off on the camera because the daylight savings time on my camera, it kind of, I don't know I think it's wrong still. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I just know, hey, like when it's sent to me, it's sent like 9 minutes late of when it actually took the picture. So it's like, there's a big delay there. So like,
sure,
if you have a 10-minute gap of when the camera actually takes a picture and you get it, you're not going to be able to get in your truck and go to that spot and be able to set up on that deer like instantaneously.
Yeah, I have yet to hear of anybody doing that with a deer. Like, it's always in theory, right? You always hear people, oh, you got a cell cam, so you just know, you're going to ride out there and shoot them real fast. I've never heard of anybody actually doing that with a deer. Yeah. I do know some people that do that with feral pigs, and more power to them. I mean, the more pigs we drop, the better.
Yeah.
But even they have a tough time doing it with pigs and their cameras at their house. Like, they literally just have to walk to the back porch and shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And even they have a tough time doing it. So I can't imagine somebody's actually going to get in their truck and drive to shoot the deer, because you saw them on a cell cam. It's silly.
Yeah. The only one that I really have, like, I think it was last ATA came out, was the live feed cameras. Those ones I was kind of like, I was and I've been openly honest about them on the podcast, about like how I'm not necessarily for them. Like it's a little bit crossing the line kind of with that kind of stuff. But then again, if you have it in the big woods, Pennsylvania right here, if you have it 5 miles in and you have that on live camera, that deer crosses and you go live and that deer's out of there. By the time you get to that spot, that deer's 1.5 miles, 2 miles away from where that camera actually was.
Yeah.
So it's
like any other tool, right? It can be misused, and that's just the way it is. There's some benefits to live viewing cameras. There's some definite drawbacks to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I kind of see that one from both sides, but yeah, that's like I said, any tool can be misused, right? So.
100%.
So, Jason, welcome to the podcast. I'm Cody, and on this one, we're going to talk about Wiseeye Tech, which is a trail camera, right? But before we get into that, let's hear about how your season actually went this year, the 2023-2024 season. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say it was a rough year in general. So but then also people had some really successful years too. So how did yours go?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's good to be here tonight. The season was not great for me. We had a terrible drought. So I hunt in Louisiana, and we had a terrible drought this year. So usually I'm going into the season, and there's still plenty of vegetation. There's plenty of water on my property. This year, all of my water dried up. There was no browse for the deer to eat whatsoever. So we had very slim pickings this year. We had some activity. I got to make a handful of hunts and didn't really see much of note. A couple of my family members managed to put some meat in the freezer, but we had one really nice shooter buck this year, and he did what shooter bucks do. He never came out in daylight. So I've got beautiful nighttime pictures of him for 4 months straight, and he never once came out in daylight. So he's still walking around. I saw him the other night. But that was pretty much it. The best part of my season was I got to take my 4-year-old to the deer stand for the first time, and
That's awesome.
So, and he believes that we hunted, and I will allow him to continue that belief. But he got to go to the deer stand for the first time. So that was definitely the highlight of my season, was putting a 4-year-old in the deer stand. But other than that, not particularly eventful. But my season is not 100% over. I leave Monday to go on a cow bison hunt. So I'm super pumped about that. And just it's a meat hunt. It's to put meat in the freezer.
Yeah.
I'm not claiming to be the world's greatest frontiersman shooting the bison, but I got a chance to go on a meat hunt for bison, and who's going to pass that up, right? So,
I mean,
I'm super excited.
It's funny you bring that up, because like we talked about in the beginning of this, I was listening to the Bone Again Bow Hunter podcast, and they asked me about
that was what I wanted to do. Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to do. So,
how did that come about? Like, how did that bison hunt come about?
So actually, I just had a family member that decided he wanted to do it, and he approached the outfitter about doing it, and kind of got this package deal together. So he invited me to go along with him, and now it's worked out great. The outfitter we're going with, we were talking to him, and he said, I have no trouble when people are out here. They always want to go shoot a pig. He said they'll go shoot a pig when they shoot their bison. He said, but nobody will shoot the sows. He said they want to pay to shoot the big boars. He said nobody wants to shoot my sows. He goes, he said, I'm begging you to shoot my sows. So now I get to shoot the bison, and I get to go shoot a couple of sows while I'm there. Which I don't mind. I'll eat the sows. I know exactly what to do with them. And like I said, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great hunt. I bought a new 4570 because it just felt right to shoot a bison with a 4570. So it was a great excuse to finally get my Henry lever action 4570 that I've always wanted. So,
man,
I'm pumped up about it. So. This week cannot go by fast enough because I leave on Sunday, so I'm ready.
The Henry guns, like the lever actions, they're that is like a dream gun to have a Henry lever action gun.
It was for me too. And crazy enough, I've been looking for one for years, and I think most people that are looking for one to know it. They're kind of hard to find right now. Like they're kind of hard to find. The lever action 4570. I wanted the brass one because if you're going to do this, let's just do it all the way. And surprisingly enough, the Walmart next to my house got one in like September of last year. And I remember telling my wife, I'm like, Walmart has a Henry lever action 4570, and I had it for like $900. I go, well, that's a great price on it. And and so I let it sit. I'm like, I don't want to spend the money right now. I don't want to spend. And then the buffalo hunt came up. I go back into Walmart, and they got a sign up on it that now it's $800 because they couldn't sell it. I'm like, well, this is just a sign from God right here. I mean, we just have to assume that this is God speaking to me. So I now have a Henry brass 4570.
Oh my gosh.
And so I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, these things are on Gunbroker for like $1,200, $1,300 right now.
Yeah.
And, just Walmart had one. Like, what are the odds of that? So, it's been my dream gun too. I just refused to pay the Gunbroker price for it. So,
dream hunt, dream gun. I mean,
right?
It's just.
I'm excited, man. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, everything comes together for that. So with the Henrys, I don't know, like I haven't really looked into them all that much. I just know it's an awesome gun to have, and something that you should have, like as a hunter, as a true outdoorsman. I feel like you should have that. Are you open sight, or do you have a scope on that?
I went ahead and scoped it.
Okay.
So it was open sight, and if I had a negative about it, the open sights are pretty bad. Like there's just no, at least the one I have there's no contrast to it or anything like that. Very hard to really to get a good sight picture on it, and I just didn't feel comfortable with it. So I went ahead and put a scope on it because I want to make sure we have a good clean kill, right? So, but yeah, I kind of did feel bad doing that though because it looks better without the scope. It really does. But like, it's more important to have an ethical kill, right, than to have a good looking gun.
I agree.
And it's definitely one of those, you buy it. It's like, it feels like an heirloom piece, right? Like, this is something my son will have one day. So I really like it from that standpoint. And like I said, I wanted it to be the brass one. Like, I had a chance to buy a blued one, and I'm like, no, it needs to be, if it's going to be a Henry lever action, it needs to be brass. That just feels right.
It feels right, looks right. Everything is just right about it. Yeah.
It is a little bit picky for ammo, though. I did learn that. It does not like those Hornady rounds that have the FTX for the lever actions. It does not like those things whatsoever. It refuses to feed those out of the mag tube. Now, I'm going to break the mag tube down and clean it. Maybe that was it. But I did some hand loads with just some Sierra soft points, and it feeds those beautiful. But I cannot get it to feed those Hornadies for anything. So I'll stick with my hand loads. That's fine. My hand loads are a little bit hotter than the Hornadies anyway. So.
Yeah. What's it shoot like?
It shoots great. I was expecting more kick, considering it's not. I mean, it's not that heavy of a gun. It has no recoil pad whatsoever. It's got a brass plate where the recoil pad goes, and it really shoots great. I'm shooting a reasonably hot load for that gun, so I'm shooting a 300 grain bullet at about 2250. So that's about as hot as you want to go with that gun. It's plenty comfortable. It shoots like a 30-06. It really wasn't much different. Matter of fact, I have an antique 30-06 I just bought that shoots a lot worse than Henry. The antique 30-06 beat me up. So no, I find it very pleasant. And I'm a bigger dude, and I shoot a lot of big calibers. I shoot a lot of 300 Win Mag. I've shot 338 Win Mag, things like that. So I don't know. I may not be the best comparison, but for me, I found it pretty pleasant. So
yeah, okay. I mean, I forget what I shot. My buddy has a Henry, and I honestly, like, that was so long ago, I forget what I shot out of that. But it fits so nice. Like, everything just fits so nice to when you hold it. Like, I think it might have only been a 22.
Right.
To be honest,
those are so much fun to shoot, though.
Yeah.
I mean, a Ruger 1022 and a Henry lever action 22. I mean, I don't know which one's more fun to plink with for the day, right?
Yes.
So my dad has always wanted a Henry Golden 22, and he had the chance to buy it and decided he'd rather buy a 30-30. So all of a sudden he just came home with a 30-30, but he still wants the 22. So I don't know. You can never have enough guns. So what does it matter? Just go buy the 22 later.
Well, remember that time when it was like you couldn't find any 22 bullets for like the longest time. Like that was 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was, where like you couldn't find any 22 shells. Like my dad, every time they go on sale, he'd run to the store and buy like 2 packs of them and just come home with them, and just for no reason. Like when I found them, I would do the same thing. Even with my 270 shells, like I had to call on my way to the cabin one year. Like I was at work down in Harrisburg, and I was like calling the store that was on the way to my cabin that was 3 hours away. Like, hey, do you have these shells? Like, can you put 2 boxes aside for me? Like, yeah, we have plenty up here. I was like, well, yeah, put 2 aside for me then. So I'll just go and get them. Luckily, they did that. But like most stores wouldn't even do it at that time with the shells. Like,
for sure,
first come first serve.
22s were terrible, and it's still not what it used to be. You go buy that cowboy pack from Winchester was like what, $15, and I mean now if you find it, I think it's probably $30, and and I don't know if you reload at all, but with reloading, the most common primer for us to use is a CCI 200 large rifle primer. It was my absolute go-to primer. They don't exist anymore. You cannot find them in the last 4 or 5 years. When you do find them, they're 5-6 times what you used to pay for them. And I actually thought they had become a back. I managed to stockpile some right before everything happened, so I haven't needed them. But I actually thought they had come back in stock. And so my mother was trying to buy my brother some Christmas presents, and he reloads. And she went to the reloading supply store here to buy him some brass. And she called me. She goes, "Is there anything else I should ask for?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Ask if they have any CCI 200 large rifle primers." And she asked, and she goes, "Jason, he's laughing." "Why is he laughing, Jason?" "Jason, he's still laughing at me." It's like I didn't realize. So it's just like the 22 thing. Now you cannot find them for anything, and when you do, like I said, you better be ready to pay 5x what it used to be.
Yeah. So
I hate that type of thing. So
yeah, it's just one more thing to make hunting just a little bit more harder, right?
Exactly.
It's just one more thing. And so
exactly.
I have not personally talked to anyone who hunts in Louisiana or anything like that. So what's it like hunting down there? Like, I know it's completely different in the South, because like I was down in the South kind of this year, like North Carolina, it's still a little south, obviously more southern than Pennsylvania.
Sure.
what's it like hunting down there? Like, what's the season like?
So Louisiana, very long seasons compared to a lot of states. So we're going to start, our bow season is going to start October 1st. We're going to run till at least February 15th. I think there's a couple of places now, a couple of zones that run to February 28th. So we're very long bow season. That entire bow season is either sex.
Okay.
So we don't have a lot of doe only days and things like that. So in my area, we do hunt from October 1st to February 15th. There's a good bit more pressure here than a lot of other areas. My brother has the chance to hunt in Wisconsin a lot, and in Wisconsin, he could just walk outside, shoot a deer. It's pretty simple. I told him it's more of going grocery shopping than hunting. Really, you're just picking something out from the frozen food aisle. But down here, it's more pressure here. We do have smaller body deer. It's just the nature of the beast. You're hotter climate, you're gonna have smaller body deer. So for when somebody down here drops 150 to 200 pound deer, I mean that's newsworthy. We're not seeing very large body deer, but it is good. Our deer herd's done well. We've managed to avoid things like CWD for the most part. They've had a couple of cases here and there. We've managed to avoid it. And different parts of the state are different, but we're not. We don't have much to write home about. Every now and then we get a big trophy buck, but for the most part, we just try to have a decent herd. We don't have the like I said, we're not known for giant racks. We're not known for giant bodies, but we do have a lot of deer hunters. So, it is what it is. I hunt piney woods in North Louisiana. It's a different style of hunting than a lot of other places. So, we enjoy it, but literally everybody down here hunts. I mean, I've been in some northern states where it's hard to find a hunter. Down here, it's hard to find a non-hunter, and everybody does it. So, it's a little bit different.
That's pretty cool. So, one of the North Carolina bucks I shot this year was kind of like had a whiter face to it. Do you see that more down there too? Like a whiter type face, lighter color body?
So probably not on average, but I do feel like I see more pictures of kind of varied colored deer down here. I remember Mississippi last year. We were seeing pictures. One of our users was sending us of some albino deer that he had multiple albino deer on one property, and they were mature. And that was unheard. I've never seen a mature albino deer before. But these were all mature, and and we have a lot of. I've seen more piebald deer. It seems like in Louisiana, Mississippi than other places. So maybe we have a little more variation, but for the most part, we're pretty standard.
Okay.
So our, I'm hunting in one of the better areas as far as deer herds. I'm in North Louisiana, a place called Wind Parish, and I'm around some of the better deer herds. I'm around Kisatchie National Forest, which is a huge national forest. But even then, it's nothing. So body size is nothing compared to northern deer. Horn size is nothing compared to Texas deer. Like we're kind of right in the middle of everybody. So and we have bigger mosquitoes when we hunt than everybody else. So there's that. I don't early season bow hunt because it's me and 6 million mosquitoes, and I just don't want to do it.
That's one thing. Like everyone talks about, like hunting swamps or hunting near water in the early season, and it's like, man, like I definitely see the reason why too, because that's where the deer are going to be. If it's on those hot days. But then I'm also like, man, do I want to go out there and like sit in 70 degrees? Because here in PA, it's the same way. This year we started. I think it was September 28th was our opening day this year.
Okay.
Like statewide. We have early regs and all that kind of stuff where they started like mid-September.
Right.
But it's during those days, it's like 70 degrees, upwards of 80 degrees, like between 70 and 80. And it's like, man, I don't want to be out there in this stuff. Like I've done it a few times, but it's not something that I want to do all the time.
Yeah, I remember my first time I ever used a thermocell, the mosquito repellent device, was early season bow hunting. It's like October 10th, and I remember getting up in my climber stand. I clipped it onto my chest strap or to my fall restraint. I clipped it onto my harness, and about an hour into my hunt, I look up and I realize there is a cloud. I mean, literal cloud you can barely see through of mosquitoes 5 feet away from me, and the only thing keeping them away is the thermocell. And so I began looking at that fuel like, okay, how long is this going to last? And how fast can I get down when it runs out? So I don't know. We have one of the guys in our office. He's an avid bow hunter, and he definitely hunts early season. And I'll do it, but I would so much rather hunt, late season. Let's get toward the rut, things like that, than sit out there in the heat and mosquitoes. I mean, we still have days where the heat index is up to 100 in October. Like I don't want to sit. I don't want to sit in the deer stand when it's that hot.
Gosh.
I mean,
No,
that-
no way. No
Uh,
way. When you said about the mosquitoes, it reminded me of I Am Legend with Will Smith, of
mhm.
how he's in that room with that one zombie and the girl and the little kid, and all these zombies are outside the glass, like banging on it and just waiting for it to break, and then all of a sudden you just have them break through.
That's what it was like. That's what it was like. It was scary.
Oh
So
my gosh.
and I fish a lot too. So
Yeah.
my fishing usually takes me into the cold months, and then I'll
Okay.
go start hunting. So, when it comes down to the choice of like, okay, would I rather go get in the boat today and fish, or would I rather go sweat and be eaten by mosquitoes?
Right.
While I'm fishing, I get eaten by horseflies. So it's just it's a different side of the coin.
Right.
But yeah, we enjoy down here. It's a unique place because we do have so many offerings for whatever you want to be into outdoors. We have it.
Mhm.
We could have better deer herds. I think there's places around here that are working toward better deer herd.
Mhm.
But we've had a lot of kind of good old boy mentality about the deer herd. So, oh, well, this is what my buddy told me. And so not a lot of bad science has crept in. And I think that's starting to get filtered out now, but we are kind of spoiled in Louisiana with the amount of fishing and hunting opportunities that we have down here. So, I'd rather be in the boat than in the deer stand in October. So,
Plus, you can actually have a cold one when you're fishing. Like you can be on that boat and crack a cold one.
So yeah, it's always a little bit better. I could be a lot more comfortable on the boat for sure.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a big fisherman, but I do like going on the water. That's something that I enjoy. I'll fish here and there. Like I like deep sea fishing, like shark fishing. Like that was my big thing. Is like I love shark fishing. I went down to Delaware, went shark fishing down there. That was fun. Other than when like you already reeled in one shark, everyone else reeled in one shark of their own, and then like you're back up again to reel in another one, and it's like my back didn't fully heal yet from when the in the first one.
How large of sharks were you catching?
It was we caught it was like 5 foot and 5 foot to 7, 8 foot. Like they were sand tigers, black tip, sand tigers, black tip, and I think those were the two that we caught.
Gotcha.
He would go deeper for like thrashers, which would be really fun to catch. Those ones with the really long tails. That would how they jump out of the water, and those things would be fun to catch. But that's further out, and I already got seasick when I was close in like that. I didn't want to go out any further than that.
And there's no sick quite like seasick. I mean, it's it's an experience. I deep sea fish a good bit, and we have so we fish around the oil rigs. We go to the oil rigs and fish the legs of the oil rigs, and we have a lot of sharks. I actually got I got hit in the chest by a thresher's tail this past year. He came by. Somebody had him hooked, and when he swam by the boat, he flicked his tail out and caught me in the chest on the way by. And but we catch a good bit of sharks, and we try to avoid them as much as we can. But there's only so much you can do. It's one of those things where we wish they would open some seasons on them so we could thin some out. Because there's rigs you can go to where you cannot reel a fish up fast enough. The shark is going to eat him first. Like there's nothing you can do about it. So yeah, we've kept a few black tips and things like that. We were allowed to keep a couple, and so we do keep a couple black tips. I think the biggest I've reeled up is just about 5.5 feet. The biggest brought to our boat was a 12-foot tiger shark. We did not try to bring him in the boat because we're not that stupid. But we have boated a 7-foot shark for him and kept him. It was a giant black tip that we kept. And I think the guy that caught it is still worn out from it. I don't think he's ever recovered. It was quite a fight. So, but yeah,
they're amazing creatures.
Love the fish. Oh, they are. They're beautiful. The tiger shark that we brought up next to the boat. We have a catamaran. We had 6 of us on the boat, and 5 of us ran to one side, look at the tiger shark, and it's just unbelievably beautiful. You can see the striping on him and everything. And my wife was the 6th person, and so when all 5 of us ran to one side, the boat does this. Now it's in no danger of flipping, but she doesn't realize that, and so she's in the opposite corner, just screaming, "Please stop! Please stop!" So we're not allowed to do that anymore. But we did. It was a beautiful shark. They're amazing creatures. So
they are, and they're always fascinating me. Honestly, like just sharks in general. Like it's always something that's fascinating to me. Like especially great whites. Like they scare the crap out of me. Like I don't necessarily want to go in the ocean when I go to the beach, but yet like I know that they're not going to be that close. Now, the one time me and my wife went down to Florida for just to see my brother-in-law and his fiance at the time. there was a giant stingray that was just swimming around us.
Beautiful.
And like my wife was like, "Don't go in there." Like everyone kept like coming out of the water, and I was like, "I just want to go up and touch it. Like I just want to go touch it." And then like you have manatees going out there and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I'm fine with all that stuff. Like I'm fine with every other fish, but then you know, a shark like way out in the distance. I don't even want to be in the ocean with that shark when it's like thousands of yards away. But it would be also pretty awesome to swim with a shark at some point.
Yeah. So we scuba dive. Most of us here in the office actually scuba dive, and so I don't intentionally dive with sharks, because most of the places where you can intentionally dive with sharks, it means that they've been feeding them, and I don't want to be around a hungry shark. That's not my goal. But I've gotten to see a couple on dives, and they're absolutely unbelievable underwater. It's almost it sort of reminds me a little bit of deer hunting. You know, I think we've all had that experience where you're in the stand and you've been watching. There's nothing coming out. You turn your head for a second, look back down the lane, and there's a deer there. And it's like, how did he get here? My first experience swimming with a shark, I'm swimming down this little coral head, and I'm looking at little fish and everything. I turn to look at my dive partner, and when I look back ahead of me, there's a 6-foot nurse shark in front of me, and I'm like, how did it get here? Like, it seems like something that large I should have known, and I had no idea. It was just right there in front of me. So my dive partner was actually my sister-in-law, Megan, who works in the front office here at Wiseeye. And so I turned to her, and I gave her the signal for shark, which that's the signal for shark when you're scuba diving. And when I turned back to look at her, all I saw was her fins going the other direction. Like, she wanted nothing to do with the shark.
Oh my God.
I was left alone with the shark, being a nurse shark. Yeah. But nurse sharks are completely harmless. I have a beautiful video of the shark swimming over the coral. But it made me really think of like being in a stand, and all of a sudden, boom, there's a big deer. It's like, how did it get here without me knowing? You know, it just appeared. And that was very much the same reaction.
Yeah, I mean, so I would compare. Like, I don't know, does Louisiana have bears down there? Is there a good amount of bears down there in Louisiana?
We do. We're getting more of them.
Okay.
We did they did a restoration project with them for years and years, trying to bring them back, and now they may have brought back too many. So they're going to open a lottery season next year, I believe.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, we have a few black bears. So.
Yeah. I would, black bears, how quiet they are and how big they are. Like with how you said, like how like something that big, you should be able to hear. Like, I've numerous times, well, last year actually, I had multiple bear encounters in the same area, and was like, you should hear them. Like, you should hear them walking. You should see them. They stand out. They're big and black. You should see them, but you don't. Like, it's just like they're right on top of you, and then then you don't know what to do at that point. It's like,
exactly.
What do I do at this point? And I didn't have my pistol either time, or I had my bow with me. So it was kind of like, and bear season wasn't in. So I was going to be able to shoot a running bear at me. But yeah, so that's always interested me. Like, I'm interested in different areas, like trying to learn different areas.
For sure.
Would you say, like, is the rut kind of stretched out down there in the South?
Definitely. So it varies a lot depending on your area. My rut this year ended up being about mid-December. We've got some places that are I was reading a thread on a forum the other day that was talking about in a certain area of Mississippi, they just started rutting, and so it's definitely spread out a good bit, and we seem to have a lot of variance even inside Louisiana. You just go from area to area, you'll see a few weeks of variance for sure. So it is pretty spread out. Now my rut this year was fast. I don't know if I've ever seen it that fast. Like, oh, they're rutting, oh, they stopped, and I think they rutted for one morning hunt. That was it, and that's the way it seemed. It was just over with. Maybe it was because it happened right before Christmas, and time flies right before Christmas. So maybe it was just me, but it definitely seemed quick.
Yeah. So, like, down there, do you see more of a change with the rut with the heat? Because you said it's kind of hot like all the time down there, or hot most of the time, warmer weather. Do you see like anything change with the warmer or colder fronts coming through?
I mean, to some extent. So I mean, I think that maybe it changes the intensity of the rut, if anything. I don't think it necessarily changes the time a whole lot. I don't really see how it could, because there is so much variance in the temperature here. We'll have some cold days. I mean, last week we were down below freezing for most of the week, and then this week it was nearly 80 degrees here today, and it's the same way in December too. So, but it does seem to affect the intensity. So if we do happen to get a rut during a nice cold snap, obviously we see more movement, right? We see more frequent movement. This year it was kind of neutral weather. It wasn't really cold, wasn't really hot, and I had great activity. But I'd have to go back and look at my charts on my app. But I really feel like it was only like 2 or 3 days. It felt that fast. So,
Okay.
last year I had a nice long rut. I got to make several hunts during the rut. This year, it was like I missed it. I looked up and I missed it. So, and like I said, that could just be Christmas. Maybe it was Christmas did it to me. You know,
It could have been, yeah.
I have 2 little boys and an anniversary right up against Christmas. So, you know, maybe I just missed it.
You could have. That very well could have been what it is. I mean, it does, like you said, around Christmas time, it just everything speeds up. I mean, it's crazy. And then like you wait all that time for Christmas to get here, and then it's here, and then it's gone in the blink of an eye. So like it definitely makes sense that it could just be speed by. But you know, with those colder weather fronts and all that kind of stuff, I mean, I can see it intensifying down there, just like it would anywhere else up here, kind of. I mean, when it's really warm in October, you don't see much activity unless it's at night on your cameras. And then, you know, you get that cold front and it's like, bam, all those scrapes pick up pretty good.
Right. And this year with the amount of vegetation loss that I had because of the drought, there's no telling. It could have just been an absolute anomaly because there was nothing to eat on my property. I mean, I had feeders out, but all the normal browse was dead. And I mean, my entire property turned brown. So it could have been that. I mean, I usually have a creek running right to the property, completely dry for 4 months. It's all coming back now. We've been raining pretty much every day for the last month, so it's coming back now.
Yeah, man. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, sure. Talk about the season. Talk about Louisiana, which I love hearing all that kind of stuff. Let's while you're here, is talk about Wiseeye, right?
Sure.
So that's why we brought you here to talk about the trail cameras you guys have, and you know what your guys are about, pretty much. Like, cause I've done a little bit of research, you know, followed you guys for a while now. So what's pretty much the background of Wiseeye, and you know all that kind of good stuff, how it come about?
Sure. So we got into making trail cameras by accident, is the true story. So we set out over 10 years ago to build a species specific animal feeder with the intent of delivering toxin to feral pigs. We built the feeder. It was approved. It was studied. It was the only way to deliver toxin to feral pigs. The problem is nobody wants to approve a toxin because the second they approve the toxin, the grant money's over and the university professors won't make any more money. And so there's no incentive for them to ever approve the toxin. And so there is no toxin to put in the machine. So I have a machine that can recognize animals well before AI is a thing, right? I mean, we're talking about 2012, 2013. I can recognize animals on a machine in the woods, and we have nothing to do with it. So we tried to turn it into a deer feeder. We were, in truth, it was our manufacturing methods just made it too expensive. But so now we have excuse me, we have a feeder that can recognize deer. We built in a data collection system into the feeder to start building charts and graphs and predictions and things. And so thought, man, that would be cool to pair that with camera data. So we built the system to do that, to manage your data, to do predictions and analytics on your images. We built that system out and basically went and shopped it around to camera manufacturers. And the response we got was pretty lukewarm, shall we say. I mean, they were interested, but nobody really saw the potential. They were all focused on, let's sell another camera to them. Let's sell another camera next year. And that seems to be the way the market has gone in a lot of respects. Is we're selling cameras that are throwaway in a year. It's just the way it feels sometimes. The cheaper the cameras get, the less they last. And so we had the software, we had the entire back end built out, but no way to get the images. And so we decided, hey, let's go build a camera. So we kind of, like I said, we kind of backed into this. And because we are focused on the software, we required from day one that the camera has to take a better picture. It's got to be bigger. So when we first came out, we were on average 5 times larger than the other cellular images because we had to be. That's the only way that the data could work well. The computer wouldn't have enough pixels to look at otherwise. And so we started with that. And it's just kind of snowballed since then. We've had so much good feedback and positive feedback. And we just decided, hey, we're going to kind of build this company and run this company the way we want it to be, the way we would want it to be done. You know, one of the big things we tell people is when you call our office, you're never going to hear a phone thing that says press 1 for English. Instead, you're going to hear a young lady named Megan answer the phone and say, how are you doing today? And we just feel like that's the way we want to be treated when we call a company, right? And so we like I said, we have great respect for some of the manufacturers. We are friends with some of the other manufacturers, and some of them make great cameras. And we just feel like this is a camera this was a program we felt was kind of needed in the market. That we're totally customer success driven. My camera is just how you become a part of our system. It's not the end goal. My end goal is not to sell you a camera. My end goal is to make you a successful customer, and make sure that your hunting season this year is successful. So our happiest stories, and we get a lot of these, is people who maybe they're taking their grandkid for the first time to go hunting or things like that, and because of our app telling them, hey, these are your best hours to go hunting, they had an opportunity to take a 5-year-old with no attention span hunting, because it's only going to be 2 hours instead of all day. So we kind of, like I said, we try to approach this differently. We're completely focused on the idea of customer success. We do not want to sell you a new camera every year because your old camera crapped out. If you want to buy a new camera next year, that's great, but add it to the one that's still running from last year.
Right.
And so we've kind of changed things up in that regard. For instance, last year we had a fleet of cameras out called the mini cam. That's kind of our most common camera on the market right now. And we released a firmware update that all of a sudden every mini cam could take and send video. That was not a feature that the mini cam was launched with. It was something we developed over time. And instead of saying, hey, you got to go buy a new camera to do video, it's, well, here's everything, go ahead and do it yourself. So we like it. Like I said, it's the way we would want a company to treat us. So we feel like that's the way to run this. So and it's been great. We truly have the best customers around. Like we have a great camera. We have better customers. That's just the truth of it. We love talking to all these guys. We love the relationships we've built with them. We get people sending us pictures all the time of, oh, I killed this deer, I did this. And our customers know the CEO by name. They call and talk to him all day. And so we just kind of extended the family out and started selling cameras, and that's it. So
yeah. No, I mean, the cameras, they are getting cheaper and cheaper. And, if you want to have a bunch of cameras, like, that's the way to go, obviously. Like, if you want to have, like, if you don't have all the money in the world, you want to have just a bunch of cameras out, a bunch of SD cameras out there and just run them and, let them all sit. But, like, I have cameras I bought a year ago that are now dead, or, like, they're not working. Like, I mean, I don't think it's bashing the company. I just think it's, the company's, that's what their motto is. Like, that's what they do. Like, they sell the cheapest cameras so that you can get them out there, buy them, and rebuy them. Like, Stealth Cam and Muddies, like, that's what I have, and that's what have died in the past, like, year. And I just bought them last year. So it's like, you go and search as hunters. Like, hunting's expensive. You try and find the best deal you can for these cameras. And if you want to run a bunch, like, and you can't afford a certain camera, like, then you're going to buy the cheap ones. But I mean, I love the fact that you guys aren't out trying to do that. You're not trying to, oh, this camera is going to die in a year, so just come back and buy another camera. Or there's a firmware where you can't update this camera that you just have. You have to come back and buy a new one that's going to send you videos in. Like, that's awesome that you guys are doing that. And I love that. And that that sounds like you're a really tight knit, family owned, type company, which is kind of dying in today's
for sure
just world in general. Like, it's not just hunting, it's everywhere in the world. But at the beginning you said before AI, do you see a problem with AI coming about with what you have now, with how it could affect what you guys are doing?
So first off, AI is a very broad-reaching term. It's been as we talk more about cameras, we're definitely going to talk about overused marketing terms. But AI is becoming one of those. It's losing its meaning because it means so many things, right? We use some machine learning, is what it's originally called before they called it AI. We use a lot of machine learning models in our system, and they're good. I do feel like AI is becoming overused, and there's some places for it, and in some ways we've kind of been sold a lie that it makes your life easier. For instance, I use the example of ChatGPT. One of the people in our office discovered ChatGPT, and she was amazed. Oh, ChatGPT can write this email for me.
Yeah.
But she spent 45 minutes telling ChatGPT what she wanted it to write. I'm like, it would have taken you 10 minutes to write the email. And so I think that the overuse is making it more clumsy for people to use in some respects. There is definitely a place for it in the hunting world, I think. And I think that's the direction I want to take us.
Mhm.
But with that said, our goal is not to, I'm not after you shooting more deer this year. Like, that's never going to be our company slogan, go shoot more deer.
Yeah.
My goal is for you to have a better deer herd.
Yeah.
And my goal is for you to use our cameras to manage your herd and make better decisions. And so if our AI can help you do that, that's what I want. And so that's
Okay.
what I'm really after, is how can I get it to where you're using our AI to help you make those decisions of which buck needs to be shot this year, which doe needs to be shot, how many does maybe need to be shot
Mhm.
this year. So for those things, I think it's good. Obviously, I think it's being overused in a lot of places, and there's definitely that risk. I don't know what it would look like in the hunting world, but I'm sure somebody's going to use make a bad AI one day for hunting. But yeah, we do use some. And so, like, so we're getting to the point where we're scared to say we use AI, because people, like I said, nobody really knows what that means anymore. And
Right.
so we use some predictive algorithms, some machine learning, some AI, however you want to say it. And it has its place for predictive analytics. It's unmatched for what it can do. So.
And I'll be honest, like I just recently found ChatGPT. I believe it's ChatGPT, but so like after I found it, I was like, man, this will help me with the podcast, right? Like it'll be like, okay, like I can generate titles, I can generate descriptions, I just put in what we talked about, and then you can generate all the descriptions. I did it on a few. Like I'll admit that to the listeners and to anyone else. Like I did that on a few. I was like, I'll try it out, see if it saves some time, but I realized that it's like it almost goes too much in detail, if that makes sense. Like it's like you have to edit out certain words. Like why would the normal person would never say this in a description? Like no person never put this in anything. Like that's a robot saying that. Like it's clear as day that someone else would say that. But you spend more time editing that out, which is exactly what you're saying. Like that makes it complete sense. But then again, there is some good sides to AI, like what you're doing, how you said about, it can help you with your deer herd. That's what your main goal is, to help with deer herd, what buck to harvest or how many does to harvest. Like, can you go more in depth with that? Like how you said there's an app. So talk about that app a little bit and how you want to generate to that.
So our cameras are paired with our app. Our app is accessible on every mobile device and in every computer. We have a web app too. It's called Hunt Control. It's the name of the app. And the idea behind Hunt Control is it's a place to aggregate all of this data. It was very much the first of its kind. Your pictures are automatically uploaded from your Wiseeye camera to Hunt Control. You can also upload SD card cameras to Hunt Control. We have a lot of users that have both. One of our biggest test users is actually in Florida, and he only has 4 of our cellular cameras, but he has 45 SD card cameras that he manually uploads. But it takes all that data. It does recognition. First off, it does species recognition. We are not using, not that this matters to a lot of people, but there are kind of pre-done animal recognition systems out there that you can go pay for. And they're okay on accuracy, but they're not really made for this environment. They're made for more like biologic research and things. So we actually custom train our own, and that allows us a lot of flexibility. So we have a trained AI model that can recognize what's in your image: deer, turkeys, hogs, people, cats, dogs, cars, whatever. And it categorizes those automatically. So once we know that information, we know where your camera is, we know when the picture was taken, and we know what's in the picture. Now we can go get the weather data. So we go pull the weather data from different meteorological sources, and we start aggregating all that data. But the problem is, this is where AI comes in, because now I have a table with millions and millions and millions of records. I know some people that have tried to take their trail cams and make Excel spreadsheets to help them hunt. And they end up, they think it's a problem when they end up with a spreadsheet that is 1,000 lines long. And they go, well, there's no way I could ever make sense of this. It's like, my spreadsheet for Hunt Control is 78 million lines long right now. What no human could do anything with that. So that's where the computer comes in. The computer can aggregate that data and start building some patterns and say, okay, when your temperature is increasing, your herd is doing this. When your temperature is decreasing, your herd is doing this. And it can start showing you that pattern over time. And so that's what we're really after. Is so we've got that data. We're trying to find more ways to present it. So where I do want to plug in what most people are thinking of as AI now, the AI that can sort of talk to you, where I want to plug that in is in making the data understandable. I already use it to create charts and graphs. What I want it to do is read the chart to you and explain to you what the chart means so that, again, you can make better decisions. I'm not trying to tell you, go shoot this deer on Friday at 5 o'clock. What I'm trying to tell you is shoot this deer instead of this deer next time you have an opportunity. That's what we really want to get to. So that's, like I said, that app is called Hunt Control. We've had it out for a long time. We are actually in the process of retraining our image recognition system, and we are going to be adding a lot of new species into it. So for any exotic hunters, there's a bunch of exotic animals about to come in there. And that's just the flexibility it gives us by doing it all ourselves. We have that flexibility to make a new one. And so that's sort of how that works. The most basic thing in Hunt Control that you can see is just activity by time. The most detailed thing you can see is actually an AI prediction of future activity based on your past activity. You'll actually see a chart that goes up and down of what your future activity is going to look like at that stand or for that group of cameras. So we can predict that out. And we're trying to get that to be more readable, more understandable, because I still feel like you're having to do too much work inside of Hunt Control to really get the data you want. And again, the data you want is, how do I have a better deer herd? And so we've been working with we've been reading some studies and working with some biologists to try to understand what metrics do we need to give somebody so they can make better decisions to manage the herd, so that we end up, we want to be a conservation company more than a hunting company. We want to see deer herds get better. So that's the goal of the software. But yeah, that's how it works, and it's accessible everywhere. It is highly addictive. Because I mean, if you've had a camera app before, you're used to getting a notification that says new image received. But on my app, you get a notification that says new buck, and that's just too much. Like, you can't handle that, right? You're sitting in church, it's like phone goes off, new buck on camera 3. It's like, all right, the pastor's not going to notice, and you have to stop and look real quick. So it has become quite addictive. So
that's huge, honestly, because I know I've talked to a lot of people that say they do the Excel sheet. They like go in, they do all the they still fold. Like, I've started doing it where I have folders on my computer, and it's like, okay, this is this scrape on this game lands at this time, all that kind of stuff. I have all the deer underneath that folder. It's like, okay, so now I got to go through there at some point, have not enough time to just go through all those pictures and decipher everything. You're kind of like putting it all in one app, and I like that. Like, I want to do that. But with the SD cards, you said he runs SD cards, like not just your cell camera. So he uses other people's trail cameras too, like, like other just regular SD cards.
Yeah, absolutely.
When
so you go. Sorry, go ahead.
No. When you upload just the pictures you want, like, or how do you go about uploading them, pretty much?
So you can kind of do whatever you want. You're not limited by the number of pictures you can upload. So I really don't care how many you put up there. So most people will go ahead and upload the entire card because it'll run the recognition, and they can just throw away the others and the hogs and things like that. So most people go ahead and upload all of it. What you do is you create a camera first. You create a camera location, basically, is what you're doing, so that my software knows where your camera was. And then you upload your pictures. I grab the date and timestamps off the pictures, and then build the data out from there. So I know the location, I know the date and time. I can go get everything else I need from that. And so that's kind of how that works. So you can upload, you can actually upload from your mobile device, or you can.
We froze. Technical difficulties. Still there?
Yeah, I think I'm just coming back. It says I lost network connection. So, yeah.
All right, there we go. Okay, there we go.
I'm hotspotting off my phone. So I don't know where you lost me at. You asked about SD card cameras. So
yeah, I lost you when you were uploading them to uploading them to there, and they can recognize everything.
Yeah, it recognizes everything. I know the camera location because you created it when you uploaded it, and we can build the data out from there. We can go get the weather data and build the same analytics that we built for our cell cams. We can build on that, and you can even group your SD card cameras with your cell cams, so you can, instead of looking at each individual cam, you can look at a group of cameras. So if you have one that's covering an area, covering a trail or a food plot or something, group them together as one.
Okay.
So yeah, we try to make it pretty easy to use all of it. That's where we started, is actually uploading SD cards. So we've been doing that for a long time, and you can do that from your mobile device or from the computer. It is a whole lot easier from your computer because mobile devices do not like to upload SD cards. But it is a lot easier from your computer, but you can do it from either.
Yeah.
We even have some people that take their cellular images from other manufacturers and drag and drop the files to our side, which I think is hilarious. I love that. Every time hey, look at this picture, I'm like, oh, that's not our picture. So I think that's absolutely awesome. But
absolutely, yeah. I mean, you guys have a great app that would benefit a lot of hunters, because I mean, everyone now wants, they want to see their deer herd grow. They want to see the bigger bucks. They want to see more. They just want to see more deer in general. So I mean, that's a huge benefit to having that. Is like, okay, you should probably shoot a doe, or you should probably shoot this many doe if you have the tags and all that kind of stuff, and then like you can hold out, or you should shoot this buck or one of these bucks here, one of the older bucks. That's pretty cool.
And that's what we're trying to get to, is more of that quality information to help you manage the herd better. So that's where we want to go. And we worked with a lot of ranches and things to try to make that happen. So people who know a lot more about deer than I do are trying to help us make that happen. So we're super excited about it. We love using it. We're all absolutely addicted to it. So
cool. How much does that cost?
So our data plans. So for let's see, I'm reconnecting here. Our data plans start at $9 a month for the cellular cameras. For that $9 a month, you're getting. We sell data. We don't really get into numbers of pictures and all type of stuff, because my pictures are larger, and because I allow you to upload video by default. You don't have to request it. You can if you want, but you don't have to request it. So because of that, we just sell data packages. You use the data however you want. So for $9 a month, you get 150 megabytes of data. If you're using pictures, that's going to be at least 750 pictures, if not more. If for $15 a month for the first camera, you go into our weekend warrior plans, what we call it. It's 15 for the first camera, 10 for every subsequent camera. And that one gets you 4,500 pictures per camera, or 500 megabytes of data to use however you want. So again, you could upload video and use the data. And you can add on more data if you want to. And that's pooled between all the devices. So if you have 10 cameras, you have 5 gigabytes. I think I said that right. Yeah, 5 gigabytes of data to use across the 10 cameras. And then our top plan is our trophy hunter plan. It's $20 for the first camera, 15 for subsequent cameras, and it's 1 gigabyte of data per camera for you to use however you want. We do not charge for. You can request larger pictures. We have what we call our XL picture. So our default picture is HD, so there's no reason to request an HD pic. But we do have our XL picture, which is even larger. We don't charge you for those. You can request as many as you want until your data is used up. The same for the videos. You can run the video in thumbnail mode and request the video until the data is used up. And then when it's used up, you get to either add more, or you can just pause it and wait for next month. And then for users who have a lot of cameras, once you have 12 or more cameras, you move to our ranch program, where you pay a minimal fee per camera to activate the camera, and then you just pay for the data you use at $10 a gigabyte. So that ends up being a huge savings for those kind of users. And it works out really well for them. A lot of our ranches are paying pennies on a dollar what they used to pay with other manufacturers, and it works out good for us because we can pool all that data and buy it at one time from the cell carrier. So, for people who want to use SD cards, for $4.99 a month, you can upload all the SD card photos you want to upload. That one comes from a 2-week free trial. So we do a little bit of everything.
Cool. Yeah, that's very interesting to me, because that's. You hear other companies. I've heard other companies try and do that, but it just doesn't work out the way they really want it to, or their goal is to do it. So I know you guys have. Go ahead.
Oh no! On the data plans, the most common question we get is, "Do you have an unlimited plan?" And we don't have an unlimited plan, because we're sending you such large pictures. We're sending you large videos. There's no way for me to do an unlimited plan and make it cost effective for you. By the time I buy that much data from the carriers, it's not going to be cost effective for anybody. And the truth is that when they say unlimited plan, there's a limit on that plan. You just don't know what the limit is.
Right.
They're just not communicating to you. And I'm not saying they're lying to anybody. It's just their images are so small that they know if you took 20,000 images, you would only use this much data. Or they don't send you videos unless you ask for it, and they know that in the course of a month, you're only going to be able to request this many videos. So they know that the camera itself has limitations, and they can use those limitations to build an unlimited plan around it. And so it's really not an unlimited plan. It's just called an unlimited plan. It's limited by the limitations of the camera.
Right.
So we just thought we're just going to be a little bit more upfront about it. And you're buying the data from us. Use the data however you want. For people up in the Northeast, most of them run that base plan. They're not hunting over feeders. They don't have the thousands of images per night that you might have in some places down here. So for them, that 750 pictures a month works great. And they can get a couple of videos a month if they want. So we're trying to do it a little differently, trying to just be transparent about, hey, here's what it costs, and we'll be upfront about it with you. So,
yeah, I mean, I have the 650 plan, like 650 pictures for my cell cams, and I have a spy point that does 100 pictures a month. Like that's what because for what I run over up here in Pennsylvania, I don't need more than that. Like it's not gonna. Unless you have like heavy windstorms. That's the only time that I'll go over those pictures. That's the only
just
time.
for setting it off from the leaves and things.
Yeah, leaves, branches blowing in front of it, or
so
sometimes I have squirrels running down trees. Like the one time I had it out, and like I get notifications, and it'd just be a squirrel. I'm like, man, I just want to kill that squirrel. Like it's the same squirrel every time. Every time.
No doubt.
So I know you guys have 2 cameras. So you want to talk about them a little bit too?
So sure, we have 2 cams that are available right now. The mini cam and the data cam. The data cam is the more expensive of the 2. It's right around $200. You'll find it a little more, a little less, depending on your dealer. And you can buy it direct from our website at wiseeyetech.com too. The data cam has 2 external antennas, so it gets really great cell coverage. It has built-in GPS. It has a 3 megapixel native sensor, and we can get into what that means. But it's 3 megapixel native sensor. It's got really good battery life. It's a very, very tough camera. It does use low glow infrared, which is another thing we can get into. But it's definitely been our flagship camera. It's a fantastic camera. It's very high speed. So you're going to look at, you talked earlier about one of your cell cams being a 8 or 9 minute delay. The average delay from a data cam taking a picture to you seeing in your app is 30 seconds. So it's very, very high speed camera. It takes 1080p video up to 10 seconds, 720p video up to 15 seconds, and sends that directly to your device. So you don't have to request it if you don't want to. Our minicam does a lot of the same things. Our minicam just has one less external antenna, and it does not have the GPS unit. And that allows us to make it a little bit cheaper, so we can sell it a little cheaper. So that one runs about $150, depending on where you're getting it from. And we do have a lot of dealers actually up in your area in Pennsylvania. We have quite a few. We'll even be at the you said something about Harrisburg. We'll be at the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg. I don't know, next week I think is when it is.
Cool.
And so we love the small dealer. Like we really we sell direct for our website to consumer, but we have lots of small dealers nationwide, and we just love that. They want to sell a product. It's not like a big box store where they want you to come in and pick up a product and never have to talk to you. These people want to sell a product, and they want to support a product, and we want to sell and support with them. So we love that relationship. We really love that. So you'll see us in a lot of small stores. You won't see us in the big box stores, with the exception of a couple. There's a couple of just independently owned large stores. Those are an exception to the rule. But the big franchise box stores, you pretty much won't see us in those because it just doesn't fit our model. We can't adequately communicate with our customer if we're going through them. And we don't like that. So, but yeah, that's a little bit about our cameras. We also even still have, some people have our original camera, which was called the Smart Cam. And it does not take as good of pictures as our 2 new ones. But the stupid thing is bulletproof. Like I've got one that's still running. It's 7 years in the woods. It's been in the woods through 2 hurricanes.
7 years.
7 years in the woods. It's been in the woods through 2 hurricanes. The first year I had my property, they clear cut that section of it because it's a timber property. And they clear cut it, didn't know it was on a tree. The tree fell over, and the logger got off and unstrapped it from the tree, threw it in the back of the backhoe. Like it's been through. It's stupid things still run it. Like we can't kill it. And so so if anybody still has a smart camera, has the opportunity to pick one up, it may not take quite as good a nighttime pictures as our new ones, but man, it's tough. If you want a camera to last, that thing is tough as nails. So a couple of people, especially in your area, because like I said, we've been there a while. A couple of people definitely will remember those. They're a beast. And that was our original one we went to the market with, and we were so fortunate that that's the product we brought out first, because it was a really good camera. It set the benchmark really high for us. So, but yeah, there are two new ones, and we have a full line of accessories for them. We have solar panels and external battery connectors and things like that. So depending on your use case, if you are in a place where you get a lot of activity, solar panels definitely the way to go. Has a built-in 5 amp hour battery. It'll run that camera indefinitely with just a couple hours of daylight. So
yeah. So with the solar panel, I know I have 4 solar panels myself. So would any solar panel work with your cameras, or is like a certain type that needs to go with it?
For the most part, they're pretty universal. Our camera uses a 1.7 millimeter plug. So as long as you have the 1.7 millimeter, which usually is a yellow tips connector, usually has a yellow tip on it. As long as you have that one and it's 12 volt, it can run our camera. Our solar panel is also universal, so ours actually comes with all the cables for pretty much every manufacturer. So if you want our solar panel, you can power your spy points with it if you would like. So it won't make them take any better pictures, but it will it will power them just fine. So
yeah, they do not send the greatest pictures. I will say that it's one of those cell link ones, so it goes into just a regular SD camera. And it was my first like dabble in cell cameras, put it that way, because I only ever ran SD cards. I was like, I don't need to buy cell cams. But then I had my daughter, and I was like, you know what? This might be beneficial to run some cell cams, so I know when to actually go out, all that kind of stuff. So I bought one of those cell links, hung it up north. Man, the pictures, like I got two really nice buck on camera, and I'm like, they were in velvet too. Like I could see them, but I couldn't see them. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was like I tried to zoom in, and I was like, man, that is fuzzy. And like they were massive. Probably two of the biggest buck I've ever seen in my life on camera. It's like, man, I really wish I had a nice picture of that.
I really wish I had a better picture. Totally understand.
Yeah.
Been there, done that. We fight all the time, and not with Spy Point, but just we fight all the time that there's so much misinformation in the cellular market. And that's why I said when we're going through the camera specs, you hear all this silly stuff about cameras, especially the cell cams. Like somebody this year, I think, released a cell cam that they're claiming is 64 megapixels. And I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. First off, megapixel has nothing to do with how good the image looks. It just refers to how many pixels are in the image. If the original picture that it took before it blew up to 64 megapixels, if the original picture was crap, then the final picture's crap. It doesn't matter. And it's just the way it works. And so a lot of times you'll see manufacturers that, and I'm not going to name any names, but a couple of years ago, there was a manufacturer that was advertising, I think, 24 megapixel cell cam, but their actual sensor was a 0.9 megapixel sensor. So they were taking a 1 megapixel image and they were blowing it up 24 times. What that essentially means is that they had 1 megapixel worth of real data and 23 megapixels worth of guesses. And that's the image. But then they didn't send you that. They actually sent you an image that was only 64 pixels wide. So what was the point? What was the point of taking the giant picture to send you something tiny? And then they compressed it. And so there's just so much misinformation out there about it. We absolutely hate when somebody calls and says, well, how many megapixels is your camera? It's like, okay, back up. Let me explain this to you. So our current camera takes a 3 megapixel native picture. That means we start at 3 megapixels. It's capable of blowing it up to 12 if you want it to, and those will be saved on your SD card. What is sent to your phone is a little over a 1 megapixel image, which makes it one of the biggest in the industry. And then if you request the XL, you actually get a 5 megapixel image sent to your phone. But it's such a silly little game that we're playing with megapixels because it, like I said, has nothing to do with image quality. But we've convinced people that it did. And so we get so frustrated with that because we feel what really frustrates us is we feel like customers are being lied to in some respect. They bought a camera because it said 64 megapixels and he knew this is going to be a great camera. and he got it home and it was no better than his camera from last year. And he doesn't understand why, because it's not his job to know why. It was the camera manufacturers, you know? And so it frustrates us to see that. And the infrared's another one that we fight all the time. There's low glow infrared and no glow infrared. We use low glow. The reason we use low glow is because it takes a better picture. It's just the physics of the way the light works. The no glow infrared uses a longer wavelength of light. It's easier to block that light. It's easier to stop that light from getting back. So even high humidity, for instance, will block that light from getting back to the camera as well as the shorter wavelength that we use. So the camera does produce a slight red glow if you look at it properly. Everybody has their own opinion about that red glow and what it will or won't do to deer. I can show you literally millions upon millions of images of beautiful large bucks right in front of the camera without any problems at all. And I have customers that believe that a buck will never be caught dead in front of that camera. So everybody has their own belief, but it's because they were marketed to. It's not because they've dug into it. It's because some other company spent millions of dollars convincing you of this. And so it's a little bit frustrating to see, because the truth is there's not that much differentiator between a lot of the cameras. And so they had to kind of blow some things out of proportion, like the megapixels, like the infrared light. The funniest thing to us is that the biologists we work with, they beg for a camera with white light. They don't want infrared at all. They want white flash, because they want full color nighttime images. And they remember using the old white flash 35 millimeter trail cams from 40 years ago now. And they're like, hey, it never bothered the deer. We got pictures all the time. So, so we just, we try to be clear and upfront with people. We've tried to not waste people's time with features that don't mean anything. And like I said, I'm not bashing the camera manufacturer. There are some great cameras out there in the market, and I understand why they're marketing things the way they are. And truthfully, they're marketing things the way they are because of the big box store, because they need to hang on the rack on the big box store, and they need to have an obvious differentiator between them and the one next to them. And so let's make that megapixel bigger. Let's make this bigger. But it didn't change the camera. It's the same camera as last year. It's just we changed a couple of things inside. So like I said, we try to be clear and transparent with people, and that's we feel like it's working well.
Yeah. The cheapest camera that I personally love is the basic run-of-the-mill Tasco cameras, the ones you buy at Walmart. I have never had an issue with any of those cameras. It's just it's so, like, it's 8 megapixels, or like it goes up to 16 megapixels, and I have never once had an issue with any of them. Like, it's like,
for sure,
the only issue I had was someone stole my one. Like, that was the only issue. Yeah. And it was one of the original Tascos. It was the first camera I ever bought back in 2019. And it was when Tasco made the camo ones. They don't make the camo one anymore. And someone stole it. So that's the only that's the only issue I've had with Tascos. But like, those are the cheapest cameras that I will buy, that I'm like, man, this thing's gonna last forever, because some that I had from 2020 are still out there in the woods. Like, it's just they're just out there because they're made like a brick.
SD card cameras are interesting because they run the gambit for price. I mean, you can get one for $30 at Walmart, and you can spend $200 on one, which really surprises me. But you can get a decent SD card camera for cheap. I've got you mentioned Muddy earlier. I've got 8 of the brown Muddy SD card cameras. I think you can get them in a 2-pack from Walmart for $50. And man, they're great little cameras. They work. Now, they don't do a whole lot. They just take a picture. That's fine. That's all I want them to do. But they take a good picture, especially for the money. They take a great picture, and they've been good. They've held up very well over the years. Cell cams tend to be a little bit more of you get what you pay for. There's some exceptions. There's some that are needlessly expensive because they have a name. But for the most part, we're all fighting over the same components. The better the modem is, the faster the modem is, the more money it costs. The better the better the antennas are, the more money they cost. It just, there's nothing I can do about that. But yeah, you're definitely right with the SD card cameras. Some of those little cheap Tascos and Muddies and all that, they're workhorses, man. They just do a great job.
I found I don't know if there is there Ollie's down there in Louisiana.
Yeah, we have a few.
Is there? Okay. I went into Ollie's one time, and there was they had trail cameras in there for sale, and they're like $32, no, $29 for like wild game innovation ones. Like they were like this small, and like they had the straps go around, and I was like, I went in there and bought all 5. It was like $29 for an SD card camera that I can just like that's small that I can just hang up. Like I'm gonna do that. Like that's And I don't know how good the SD camera pictures are right now, but I haven't put them out yet. But they're there. So
yeah, it's probably pretty good, to be honest. I mean, so the SD card camera is not bound by a lot of the limitations. A lot of the issues with cell cams come because of the cellular part. It's really easy to take a pretty picture and put it on an SD card. It's really hard to send that pretty picture to your cell phone. So the SD card cams, they, like I say, you can get some great ones for cheap, and I've had a bunch of them over the years. Durability wise, some are great, some are not. But those little brown muddies have done well. They made it through a few seasons, and now they're kind of my they've become my investigation cameras. So if it's like, hey, I have a big barn near my house, and if I'm trying to figure out, hey, what critter did that to my barn, I'll go put one up and figure out what it was this time. But I like a good SD card camera, really do, and that's why we wanted our system to work with those, because it is unrealistic that every hunter is going to go out and buy 15 of our cell cams, and they shouldn't have to. So hey, this year, go buy one cell cam, bring all of your SD card cams. They come for free. So once you buy that first cell cam, you can put as many SD card cams in our system as you want for free. Go ahead and use that, and then next year replace 1 or 2 of your cameras with another cell cam and another cell cam. And eventually, you'll be all cellular if you want to be, or you'll be 15 cell cams and 15 SD card cams. Have fun.
Yeah. No, I do love that, because like especially with where I hunt, it makes sense to put cell cams more up north, because it's like the one place is like almost 2 hours away from me. It's like I can't go there just to check cameras, so I gotta hang my cell cams up there. Then I gotta differentiate of where I'm gonna put everything else, kind of separate it and put it everywhere else. But let's talk about the components of a cell cam. Like, is it getting harder to make or find those? Because you said you're with other cell cam companies, you're kind of fighting over those components a little bit. What's that like? Because I don't think any of the listeners really have any idea of what goes into making a trail camera.
Sure. So you're trying to keep up with the tech. Okay. So think about your cell phone and how much your cell phone is advanced. I saw a stat. So I think January 9th of this year was the 17th year of the iPhone. It was the 17th anniversary of the iPhone. Wow. And I was actually shocked that it had only been 17 years. Because for me, I'm like, I feel like it's been here forever. And at the same time, I also feel like it was here yesterday. So I'm somewhere in the middle. But think of how much we've changed in 17 years of your iPhone. And any component that touches the cellular network has had that same growth over the last 17 years. So every year there's a series of new modems on the market. Every year there's modems that are retired on the market. There are technologies that are retired. So they've retired 2G and 3G in most of the US. So if you had a 3G camera, one of the manufacturers had a big problem with that they had 3G cameras out across the board, and all of a sudden your cameras don't work. And so we do have to keep it updated. Every time you change components, you have to go through what is called certification, which is basically just a form of torture, where you have to go to people like Verizon and AT&T and prove that your device does what you say it does. And it's just the worst part of my job. And so we're all doing. We all want the best component we can get at the best price point we can get it at. And so if you look at it, for instance, the cellular modem, those modems range anywhere from literally under $5 a piece to well into multiple hundreds of dollars each. Okay. And so you are definitely getting, in some respects, you're going to get what you pay for, right? If you're buying an $89 camera, it does not mean it's a bad camera. It just cannot have the best modem in it, because they didn't have the money to put the best modem in it. That wasn't the price point they were after. And so we are fighting over components. And then when you add like geopolitical stuff in it, because all of the high-tech chips are made in certain places around the world, and not all those places are friendly with each other. So there are embargoes on chips. There are certain chips that cannot be exported to certain countries or exported from certain countries. So every year the rules for cellular cameras change. Every year certain components have to go and certain components have to be brought in. And that's just the cellular modem. everything else is also advancing. There's new image sensors, there's new technologies that come about, and so it's more of a it's something that's advancing a lot more than SD card cams. SD card cams, you tweak a couple things every few years, and they work, and that's great. They're a simple device. This you're having to keep up with so many moving parts. If the carrier decides we're going to change this about our network, you have to update to make sure you're compatible with their network. So it is you're in a constant search for resources and what are we going to do this year to make the camera better? What's available to make the camera better? Or in our case, we really don't like remaking our camera. We would much rather just support the camera you have. And so we try to walk that line between, okay, what make sure our camera's still relevant without, without making our customer buy a new camera every few years. So we've been very fortunate that we made some good decisions early on. And so none of our cameras are at risk of being shut down. There are some cameras on the market that are using older technologies. And in the next few years, if those cameras are still operating, they will be shut down because those technologies will no longer be compatible with the cell carriers. And that's just the reality of the way cell carriers work. And so it's a constant evolution of the camera. You're always looking, what did we do last year? What do we have to do this year? It's definitely interesting. I was having meetings this morning with some of our manufacturers and suppliers, and they're, well, yeah, all that stuff you did last year, you can't do any of that this year. I'm like, well, why not? I want to do all of it again. So, but like I said, it's and then when you had things like COVID happen and these giant chip factories shut down, and so now it used to be nothing to get this modem. Now that modem doesn't exist, and so there's a lot of moving parts to it. That's why the cell cam industry is so much different than the SD card cam industry. You can go buy a cheap SD card camera and have a great hardworking little camera. If you buy a cheap cell camera, you are buying a cheap cell camera. There's just no way around it. It may work great, and it may not. It just does not have the best quality components because that's the price point they were trying to hit. There's nothing wrong with that. You were able to buy it for cheap. That's great, but you got to understand when you got what you paid for. And that's true in the cell cam market, like I said, to a certain price point. At a certain point, some cameras are needlessly expensive, and I don't know why. I own some of them, and I really don't understand why they cost what they cost. But yeah, for the most part, the cell cam is all driven by those components.
You personally probably then do a lot of testing, like you test other people's cameras out just to kind of compare your cameras to theirs, right?
For sure. Yeah, we do a lot of testing, and we try to stay up with what the latest technology is. It's always fun when you see a manufacturer come out with a tech that you already tried. We had one this year. Well, actually, one last year that released a camera. We're like, oh yeah, we thought about that, and we thought about that and passed on it. No very specific reasons we passed on it. But it like I said, it's a constant change. The cellular camera never stays the same, because the cell networks are always changing. The rules are always changing. And it goes down to the least little thing, the SIM cards, sometimes the market, the cellular market is getting away from a certain size of SIM card. So in the next probably 5 years, we're all going to have to change our cameras to use the smaller size card, which is really obnoxious because those things are terrible to work with. They're tiny. You can't use them. It's little things like that. Like, so we're always in change, but yeah, we do. We've had just about everybody's camera, and we know most of the manufacturers. We're friendly with almost all of them. Some of them take great pictures. Some of them do a great job. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything bad to say about any of them, for sure. Not that I would anyway,
man.
but I don't really have anything bad to say about any of them. Nah, I don't really have anything bad to say about any of them. I'm most impressed by the reputation certain companies have, and so I've always been very impressed with companies like Moultrie that, I mean, they've been around forever, and for the most part have a very good reputation. I think that's something for a lot of companies maybe to aspire to. That it's hard to find somebody that has a truly negative thing to say about the company, and I think they've done a good job at keeping that image. And we've met with them. Like I said, we're friends with them, and so we're fortunate to be in a business where there are a lot of good quality competitors out there. So yeah, we know most of the cameras.
Are there any like people who you don't have to name names, but is there companies out there that like kind of don't want to work with other trail camera companies? You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There is some partisanship that goes on where they don't want to share their space, shall we say? I think that's probably a good way to put it. They it tends to be the ones that the more aggressive they're marketing, the more aggressive they are behind the scenes too. Okay. If they're the camera, if they're the one that's always in front of you, we're the biggest, we're the best, we're the biggest, we're the best. They get really offended when anybody questions that notion.
Really?
And so that would be kind of what I'd say on that front is
okay. All right.
The more they spend on marketing, the more aggressive they are about defending that image that they're trying to create, right? And so they can get somewhat hostile on social media or whatever, but for the most part, it's an industry filled with hunters, and we respect each other and like each other. We're good friends. Like I said, we know the people at Moultrie. We've been friends with them. We knew the people at Wild Game. We were friends with them. Now that ownership has changed in the last few years.
Right.
That's just because of the corporate world, but we're still friends with them. We still know them and like them, and so now we don't really have anything bad to say about anybody. It's just business for us. We understand that you work really hard to put a marketing message out there, and anytime somebody comes along and hurts your message, it's frustrating. It really is. Like, we get it too. We really do. So, and social media is its own barrel of monkeys. I don't know. It's a crazy world out there. And you get some people that are diehard loyalists to a certain brand, and they can't believe that you would post a picture. We get accused of photoshopping our pictures. Like, we post pictures on social media and they're like, you photoshopped it. I'm like, when on earth am I going to have time to Photoshop somebody's deer in it? Like, good grip. I can't find time to go home and see my kids. I'm definitely not going to Photoshop anybody's deer picture. We have one we posted last week that went truly viral. Like, I think it's like 2 million views now. And it was a picture of this gorgeous buck that had walked in a snowbank. He's like knee deep in snow.
Yeah.
And he's just standing there. And it's just amazing picture. And even I questioned it. Even I looked at it and went, okay, why is he just standing there like that? There's no food. There's no other deer. He's just standing there. And so the guy that took the picture actually sent us the videos too, that the camera was also taken. And we found out there was food there. It just was out of the frame. You couldn't see it.
Right.
But people on social media were saying we faked the picture. Like, you can't see the deer track to where he walked in. And we're like, we don't know why you can't see him. Like, we just... So it turned out that you absolutely could see him. You just couldn't see him in that one picture. If you looked at the next picture, he turned sideways and you could see that behind him was a clear trail. So social media is just it's crazy. We love it. We have some great fans on social media, but it's definitely interesting. There's never a dull moment when you deal with Facebook, and so we get accused of photoshopping deer images, which we take as a compliment. If our picture looks so good that you believe we faked it, hey, that's pretty good. We're happy with that. So
I mean, the one picture I think you might have just posted on your story, but it was like the buck was so clear. It was like, holy crap! Like, none of my cameras are remotely close to that. Like, when I look at the pictures, nowhere close to that.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I have our cameras. I have 10 of them running on my property, and they take beautiful pictures. But man, sometimes I see these ones on social media, and I don't think they're real. They've got Wiseeye logos on them, and even I'm going, man, is that? And some people are really good at placing cameras. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Some people are just really good at it, and that is a lot of. That's 90% of the battle is placing the camera correctly. 90% of our support calls are people who place it incorrectly. And so we spend a lot of time doing that, but we just enjoy what we're doing. We're having a great time doing it. We've gotten to meet so many great people. We go to all these hunting trade shows and hang out with hunters for the weekend. We go to these deer ranches and help set up their cameras. I mean, we're just having a good time, and we enjoy talking to our customers. One of our customer service reps is named Mike. Mike is actually retired from a petrochemical plant down here, and Mike just likes to talk to people. So if you call and talk, Mike will talk to you, and that's the way most of this office is. We have trouble getting them off the phone because we'll talk about whatever's going on today. We don't care,
right?
So
that's awesome. So about the camera placement, you said the data cam has two antennas on it to be better, kind of reach a more wider area, or deeper in the woods, all that kind of stuff. So in PA here, I had a cabin up north. There's no service. Like you have some spotty service here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Would those two antennas kind of help that? Like if you're not in an area that really has good service or really any service at all with your cell phone, would
Sure.
those two antennas kind of help with that?
They definitely can. Both of our cameras will typically get better service than your cell phone.
Okay.
And we put that qualifier on there typically because a lot of it goes to the design of the antenna. So these are, this is the data cam here with its two camouflage antennas. Two camouflage antennas.
Okay.
It's really cool because it disappears into the tree because it's camo. We like that. Otherwise, a black antenna would stick out. But these are 6 dBi antennas. That refers to the power of the antenna. The higher that number goes, the more directional the antenna becomes. And so if you have a 12 or a 20 dBi antenna, that antenna has a very narrow beam. Now that beam goes on forever, but it's super narrow. So you've got to actually turn that antenna and aim it towards the tower to get a signal. 6 dBi is just on the edge of what's considered a directional antenna. So all that's to say, these are super powerful antennas, but it can be interfered with. So elevation changes can interfere with these antennas. Phone, to some extent, is sometimes better at handling those things. So it is a mixed bag. Typically, 90% of cases, this will get much better service than your phone, and it will get better service than the minicam because the minicam has one external lower gain antenna. But if you do have a lot of elevation changes, if you have a lot of vegetation, you may experience a little bit different results. You definitely can rotate these antennas. The flat sides are the important sides. The narrow sides don't matter.
Okay.
You can definitely rotate these. We actually recommend when people are placing cameras in a low signal area, there's an app you can get for your phone called Open Signal, and it's free. And Open Signal will tell you which direction the nearest tower is.
Okay.
And you can actually take these antennas and rotate them to face that near tower, and it'll help you get better signal.
And you want the flat side facing towards that antenna, right?
Yeah, you want one of the flat sides facing towards the tower, if at all possible. And you want the tower to not be on the other side of the tree. So if the tower's that way, you don't want the tree between the camera and the tower. So you'd rather maybe go put it on a tree on the other side so the antennas can see the tower.
Okay.
I actually had that experience on one of my cameras. I was just determined I was going to hang it on this one tree. And after fighting it for like 30 minutes, I realized, hey, if I just move it over there, it'll get signal. And sure enough. So, but yeah, these are more powerful. They do tend to work better than the minicam. There are cases where the minicam is better, because the minicam is less sensitive to elevation changes. So if you are in a deep ravine or something like that, the minicam can sometimes get better signal. But for 90% of people, this is the way to go. And we really like the camouflage aspect. We were one of our social media guys actually made that recommendation at the last minute when we were designing this camera, and we did it kind of on a whim. Just thought, hey, let's see what it looks like, and we hung it on the tree and lost the camera. We're like, uh-oh, that's really cool. So we've had several times where people are like, I can't find my camera, which is a good thing. You don't want to be able to find your camera. You want them to disappear. So we like those a lot.
And the other thing I heard is that there's GPS in the cameras. Yeah. So, for instance, if a camera's stolen, like someone takes it, you could find out where that camera is.
Right. So if they take the camera and turn it on at all, it's going to report the location, and we can sometimes help people get them back. We can also, if you contact us, if you have a camera stolen, a lot of times we can contact the cell carrier and trace it that way too. And we do, if your camera gets stolen, by all means call us. We will help you make it right. Like, we hate it as much as you do. We've replaced a lot of people's stolen cameras. I say a lot. We've replaced a few stolen cameras. It's not as common as people think it is if you place them well, but yeah, we hate it as much as you do. But yeah, you can trace it via GPS, and you can get in touch with the cell carriers. And sometimes I know in a couple of cases we've had to ask people to get a police report because the cell carrier in that area wouldn't turn over the data without it. But yeah, the GPS does help in getting back. The other thing GPS does is it auto locates the camera for the app. So that the location of the camera is super important for the data. And so having the GPS auto locate the camera really helps you out. Just makes your life a little easier. And then every time you move the camera, it auto updates again. I
like that because my one cameras, I go into like the map area, and it's like it says where I'm physically at with my phone is where the camera's at, and I'm like, that's not where I'm at. That's not where the camera's at. So that would be a cool aspect to have and be like, okay, this is actually where the camera's at. Like, because if you don't mark it on X or something like that, like you're in a hurry, you're hanging up and you get out of there, you don't mark it on X. That way you still remember where it's at.
Exactly.
Circumstance where you forget where your camera's at for some reason.
Yeah, and so with every innovation comes problems. So we put the GPS on there, and the GPS was stamping the bottom of the pictures with the GPS coordinates.
Oh, yeah.
And that made sense in a lot of ways. But then somebody pointed out, because I can't post my pictures on Facebook because everybody will know where my deer was. I'm like, crud. So now if you have a data cam or minicam, there's a firmware update button in your app. Go ahead and hit that button, and it will put a new firmware there. And when your GPS is working, it will just say GPS active at the bottom of your picture. It will no longer show the coordinates. I will still send the coordinates to your app, but it will not show them on the picture. Because we had, one thing is another. But yeah, we had to have a lot of people. Hey, I want to post this picture, but it says GPS on it says the coordinates. I'm like, do you know how to crop a picture? Your phone will do it for you. But yeah, wow. we made that change. So, but yeah, the GPS is a great feature. It makes it so much simpler to use that camera.
Oh yeah, for sure. So you have the solar panels, but I think the big question, because batteries are getting so expensive, does it necessarily matter if you use an alkaline battery or a I forget the other one. What's the other one?
Lithium.
Lithium. Does that affect it a lot?
If you're talking about AA's, we do not recommend lithium batteries. The reason we don't is just it's a purely cost argument. Okay, in the correct scenario, the lithium battery will last twice as long, but they will cost you 4 times more. So it just doesn't make sense from a cost benefit standpoint. And in most cases, I mean, the number one time you want to use the trail cameras is in the winter when deer are moving a lot, and lithium batteries are affected by cold, more so than alkaline. And so they tend to, the lithium AA's is what we're talking about. Yeah. So they just don't tend to have the cost benefit on their side. And so for that reason, we don't recommend them. It's not that they're not good. They're very good. But it's just, you're going to buy, I can go to Sam's and get members mark batteries. I think it's $20 for 48 of them, but it's $32 for 8 lithium ion. And it's like, it's not worth it. So for people who are really concerned about battery life, the solar panel is a great way to go. A little bit cheaper option is just, we sell a variety of power cables. We're not the only people. You can also get them other places. We sell a variety of power cables with different connectors on them. You can hook our camera to any 12-volt battery you can imagine. And so for a lot of people, they have old 12-volt deer feeder batteries, the square ones, rectangular ones. Those will work great. Those on picture mode, they run my cameras for about 5.5 months at a time, which is great. We love that. We have people hook them to lawnmower batteries. That'll run it for a year or more. But at a certain point, you will rapidly approach where the solar panel makes more financial sense. The solar panel is between $75 and $100, depending on who's selling it and what sales are going on. I think that's right. And very quickly that will become worth the investment. Those deer feeder batteries are $25 a piece. After a couple of recharges, they lose their power. So, very quickly you're going to approach that $100 mark on that camera. Our new solar panel, it charges fast enough. It needs just a few hours of sunlight a day. It does not need 100% direct sunlight as long as it's getting lit somehow. And it has a 5 amp hour built-in battery. So if you think about that deer feeder battery, most of those are 7 amp hours. So we have almost that much power built into the solar panel, and it's being recharged every day. So they really keep up well. I have a solar panel that's, I think it's 6.5 months now. It hasn't dropped hardly at all. It hasn't moved the needle yet. So we like that. And we got frustrated. So on the battery discussion, we got so frustrated with the battery meter. So every camera manufacturer does this except us now. We are alone in the marketplace. So you have the battery meter with 4 little bars in the battery, right?
Yep.
And nobody understands, and I understand why they don't, because our brains don't work this way. When you have 2 bars left on that battery, you do not have half a battery. Because batteries don't decline that way. When you have 2 bars left on a battery, that means get your butt there and change the batteries. Right. But I totally understand why people don't get that. Those 2 bars should mean you have 50% capacity remaining. So if you already have 2 months, that should mean you have another 2 months. That is not what will happen.
No.
And so we got so frustrated with that battery meter misleading people. So now our cameras on every picture and on our app, you will see the actual voltage remaining in your batteries. And it's just a much better indicator of how your battery is actually dropping. And that's true for our solar panel too. What that allows us to do is on most cameras on the market, and I can't say all because I haven't tested all, but most cameras on the market, if you plug in a power cable, they will report 100% battery all the time because of the way the sensor works. When it's reading the power board, it will report 100% battery all the time. Ours used to do it too. We've swapped it now to where you can see internal and external battery voltage on every picture. So on my cameras, I can tell you exactly how much battery is left in my AA's and how much is left in my solar panel on every camera. And we just love that feature. It makes it so much easier to understand what's going on with your camera. We'll have people that before that they would call and go, well, I have a solar panel on my battery on my camera, but my camera stopped working. And we try to tell them, it's like, well, probably something pulled the cable out or ate the cable. That happens too. So now you can see that the voltage on your solar panel dropped to 0. Well, something just messed up your solar panel. So it's one of those little things that we just we thought it was frustrating for the customer. So we do have to educate the customer on what the battery voltage means, but at least we're giving you the real data, because that battery meter is so misleading.
Yes. Yeah, it
we
really
get so
is.
frustrated with it. So because people would call all the time, well, the batteries can't be dead. It had 2 bars yesterday. I'm like, well, yeah, but that's not what that means. It's not their fault. It's just it's a misleading chart. And so anyway, we made that change last year, and it's been a good change overall. So on our cameras, when you look at the battery voltage, if you see anything below 8 volts, that means you need to go start changing your batteries. If you see something below 7 volts, you should have already changed your batteries. And if you see something below 6 volts, it's miraculous, and don't change it because God is at work, because it shouldn't be working. That's a little bit how that works.
Cool, man. So this is honestly the first time I've talked to someone about Wiseeye. So it sounds like a great camera. I think I might. I'm leaning towards buying one, so that I'm just to try it out, run with my other cameras, and try out the app and do all that kind of stuff. So I think it was good information for the listeners. Where can they follow you? If they want to buy some stuff, is there local dealers in PA, or is that on your website? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we have a dealer locator on our website. So absolutely go visit some of our dealers in PA. We have plenty there. We'll be we're partnered with a booth in the big Harrisburg show. So anybody that if this happens to come out before that, we'll be at the Harrisburg show. You can go talk to Daryl, who's actually one of the owners of the company. We'll be there all week long, and he loves to talk. So you can check us out. WiseeyeTech.com is our website. So that's WISEEYE. So there's 2 E's in the middle. Tech.com, TECH. You can check us out on our website. We're all over Facebook and Instagram. You can search Wiseeye on Facebook. We'll pop right up. And we have a great group of guys on Facebook that monitor everything. So if you ask a question there, you're going to get a fantastic answer really quick. So yeah, we're pretty easy to find that way. You can buy directly from us, and everything you buy directly from us, we do a 30-day no questions asked return. So if you got it, don't like it, return it. If you got it and you thought you needed Verizon, but you really needed AT&T, return it. We'll get you a new one. We're very flexible with that. So, and we even have live chat on our website. So if you just have a question, get on the live chat. You're probably talking to me because I monitor it a lot, and so does everybody else here. So we just look forward to it. We have a great time with this, and we're loving meeting new people, making new fans, and we want to see this grow. We really want to see people having better deer herds, better hunting experiences, and we hope that leads to more hunters. We want new generation hunters coming in. We want that grandchild going for his first hunt. We want those experiences. That's what we care about. So we're excited, man. We're having a great time.
Cool, man. Jason, I really appreciate you coming on here on very short notice, because I think I reached out. I sent you guys this date on Monday. I want to say hey, 24th work for you guys? They were like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So really appreciate you jumping on here and talking about Wiseeye.
No problem.
And your season. It was awesome, man.
Yes, sir. So have a great night. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you too. There we go.